Good morning, students. In today's lecture of GE 203, that is Principles of Plant Biotechnology subject, we are going to cover up the topics of anther, pollen culture and embryo culture. So to start with, first anther culture. Anther culture is a type of tissue culture technique where a part of plant, that is anther, gives rise to an androgenic haploid plant when cultured on a nutrient medium under optimal conditions. So basically anther culture is nothing but you have to aseptically remove the anther from flower bud, unopened flower bud. You have to remove all the unnecessary tissues from the anther and you have to put it in onto a nutrient medium, supplementing with proper nutrients, and you generally finally grow the haploid plantlets from such kind of anther culture. So the process is also known as androgenesis, as it developed the haploid plants, haploid male plants. The anther culture technique comes under the process of androgenesis that induced the growth of haploid plants. Till the date, about 250 species, the technique of the anther culture has been implemented. And amongst these 250 species, the most common species belong to the family of Gramineae, Solanaceae, Ranunculaceae and Cruciferae. So in these four families, there are the plants in which the anther culture has been exploited frequently. Now, who have developed the anther culture? So the inventor of this culture were a few foreign scientists along with the Indian scientists known as Guha and Maheshwari. They have performed the experiment on the Dhatura inoxia plant, and they both of them they have cultured the anther of Dhatura inoxia on a nutrient medium and have developed the haploid plants of Dhatura inoxia from anthers. So in 1964-1966 they have carried out the experiments in University of Delhi. In 1967 the Borgen and Nish they have obtained the first haploid plants from the anthers of Nicotiana. And during the last decade, the anther culture was exploited in the plant species like rice, wheat, maize, brassica, pepper, and other crop species. So this is all about the history of anther culture. So androgenesis, it is the in vitro development of haploid plants originating from totipotent anther or pollen grains through a series of cell division and differentiation. It's basically the formation of male haploid plantlet originating from anther or pollen grains, which are cultured in vitro condition. So there are two methods of androgenesis as under. The first method is called as direct androgenesis, which is also called as embryogenesis. In this type of androgenesis, microspore cells behave like a zygote and undergoes change to form embryoids, which ultimately give rise to plantlet. So why this is called as a direct kind of androgenesis is because there is no intermediate callus phase exist. There will be no formation of callus. Directly from your anther or pollen cells, you will get small embryoids in the culture, and these embryoids finally turn into complete plantlet, haploid plantlet. While in indirect androgenesis, which is also called as an organogenesis, in contrast to direct androgenesis, the microspores, instead of undergoing embryogenesis, they divide repeatedly to form the callus tissue, which further differentiates into haploid plants after undergoing the organogenesis. So in this method, what happens? From your tissue, anther or pollen tissue, you first get the callus tissue. And whenever you provide the appropriate auxin and cytokinin to this callus, the callus further turns into a complete plantlet, which is an haploid plantlet. So in this kind of androgenesis, callus is there. In direct androgenesis, there is no callus phase is there. So this is the difference between two kinds of androgenesis. Now, how you can proceed with the androgenesis process? The protocol is given here. First process is the parent plant selection, in which you have to first select the plant in which you want to develop the haploid plants. So first you have to select the parent plant, then you have to select the uh, flower bud, which is at the proper critical stage of development. The stage of development of pollen grains can be studied with the help of DAPI staining, Schiff's reagent, or acetocarmine or acetoorsin staining methodologies, in which you will get to know about at what stage your pollen development is occurring. So that is very helpful for further deciding whether your androgenesis will go by direct or indirect way. Then once you finalize the stage of your the stage of microspore development in your anther, the next stage is to collect the flower buds and surface sterilize them using certain chemicals like surface sterilizing agents like hypochlorite, sodium hypochlorite and mercury chloride. Then in the fifth stage, what you do, you isolate the anthers microspores from the buds by slit opening the flower buds and then removing the filament at the base of anther. And these anthers which were without filament were then inoculated onto a appropriate nutrient medium containing all the necessary nutrients. These anthers were further undergo either direct androgenesis or indirect androgenesis based on the fate of the anther development. So this is the pathway of androgenesis where you end up with the recovery of haploid plantlet starting from the anther or the male gametophyte. So this is the schematic diagram. This is your donor plant or mother plant, from which you collect the unopened flower buds. You first go for staining, the stage identification of microspore development, and then further you take these flower buds in the laminar airflow where you surface sterilize them with certain chemicals, wash it with distilled water to remove the traces of surface sterilizing agents, take them into Petri plate. Using scalpel and forceps, you slit open the unopened flower buds to remove the anthers. From these anthers, you remove their filaments or stamens from the bud, as the stamen is the diploid tissue, and your main objective is to obtain the haploid plantlet. That's why just the anther is collected. These anthers were then cultured on a nutrient media. So there are two fates, either anther will go to embryogenesis phase or organogenesis phase, direct or indirect. And the final outcome of this entire process is the development of an haploid plantlet. So this is the procedure of anther culture. Now, what are the disadvantages of anther culture? The main disadvantage of anther culture is that the plants or embryos or calli not only originate from microspore or pollen, but they may originate from various other parts of the anther lobes, like anther wall is there, nucellar tissue is there, tapetum tissue is there, which are actually diploid tissues. And what is our main purpose of anther culture is to obtain the haploid plants. But as the tissue associated with anther sometimes could be a diploid tissue, there is chances that you may get the diploid plants also using anther culture. That's why it is disadvantageous to use anther culture for initiating or to obtain the haploid plants. Furthermore, anther wall and other tissues may affect the way of androgenesis by inhibiting the penetrance of media or stimulating the effects of hormones supplied. This difficulty can be avoided by culturing the isolated microspores or pollen, where you remove the anther wall or other inhibiting tissues and you directly expose the microspores or pollen grains to the media. And that's why there is need to go for pollen culture rather doing the anther culture. Now, what is pollen culture? Pollen or microspore culture is an in vitro technique by which the pollen grains, preferably at uninucleated stage, are squeezed out of anther aseptically from an intact anther and then cultured on a nutrient medium where the microspore without producing male gametes develop into an haploid embryoids or callus tissues, which gives rise to haploid plantlets by embryogenesis or organogenesis. it's similar as that of anther culture only, but only difference is whenever you cut the anthers, you remove the filaments here. At this stage, what you do, you have to crush these anthers, or you have to smash these anthers in order to release the pollen grains which are situated inside the pollen sacs of within the anthers. So what you do, you have to gently crush the anthers by glass rod. Then you have to take this into the another flask. You create a pollen suspension, and from this pollen suspension, whenever you centrifuge this suspension for 5 minutes for about 500 to 800 rpm, then what you get, the pollen grain suspended in a medium, fresh medium. You can again you can go for centrifugation of this broth again to get the pellet of pollen grains. From this pellet you can remove the pollen grains one by one, and you can plate them on a nutrient media where they will further incubated at 24 to 26 degrees Celsius for 3 to 4 weeks, where they further go into an embryoids, or either by, if they are wounded, they get in the process of isolation, if they get wounded somewhere, they will develop callus, or most probably they will develop embryoids, and finally a haploid plantlet in the process. So this is the process of pollen culture. The same process has been explained over here in a picture form. So it has two phases as like anther culture. Either it will go to form a callus, or it will go to form a embryoid. But the final fate of both of these processes will be haploid plantlet development. Now, why one should go for pollen culture rather than to opt for anther culture is mainly because it has certain advantages over the anther culture. In pollen culture, overcrowding of pollen grains in anther culture is eliminated. Isolated pollen grains are equally exposed to the nutrient medium. So the first advantage of using pollen culture is you avoid the overcrowding of pollen grains, which is the main problem in anther culture. While when you isolate the single pollen grains in pollen culture, and when you add them in a nutrient media, they are getting equally exposed to availability of nutrients, and that's why they grow faster, and there is chances that you get multiple numbers of haploid plants. Now second thing is unwanted growth of diploid cells of anther wall and other associated tissues is eliminated. There is no chance of development of diploid plants using pollen culture, as you are removing all of these diploid associated tissues like tapetum, nucellar tissue, anther wall tissue whenever you go for pollen culture. Then third thing is the stage of androgenesis can be observed starting from a single microspore mother cell. So in pollen culture you can observe the all stages of development starting from a single cell of pollen till the entire complete plantlet. Then the fourth advantage is various factors governing androgenesis can be better regulated in the pollen culture. Pollen is deal for uptake of transformation and mutagenic agents, and studies as pollen can be uniformly exposed to chemicals and physical mutagens. That means you can easily introduce the mutations and transformations within the pollen culture. Pollen may directly transform into an embryoid, so it is very suitable for understanding the biochemistry and physiology of androgenesis. Usually, whenever you use pollen culture, usually the fate will be direct androgenesis, where no intermediate callus formation will be there. Most probably 90% it will go into embryoid formation. Only 10% chances are there that it will go for a organogenesis, that means a callus phase. Then last one is the higher yield of haploid plants per anther as compared to the anther culture, as more number of pollen grains are suspended from single anther, and every pollen can be converted into a whole plantlet using a pollen culture. So all these are the advantages of using a pollen culture over anther culture. Now next culture is embryo culture. Embryo is again an whole organ. You can obtain it from seeds. So mainly we go for embryo culture whenever uh, natural survival of embryos are not there. You mainly in the hybrid seeds or the seeds which are problematic, there their embryo is not growing properly because of the hard seed coat or because of the seed dormancy, self sterility. In all these kinds of problematic seeds, we can go for embryo culture by mechanically removing the seed coat, by mechanically breaking the seed dormancy, and thereby removing the embryo out of the seed and culturing it into in vitro conditions inside the laboratory. So that's why we go for embryo culture. So it's basically growing the embryo aseptically in vitro on an artificial nutrient media. We do this kind of embryo culture in to overcome the seed dormancy in some plant species, and also to overcome the self sterility of seeds, and also to study this embryo development in vitro. Now the term embryo culture means excision of embryos regardless of the age, size and developmental stage from their natural environment and growing them under artificial environmental condition, that means in vitro. The first study of embryo culture was done by Liebeck in 1925, who isolated interspecific hybrid embryos of Linum perenni and Linum ostricum species. The cross of these two species was carried out, and the hybrid embryos were then isolated, and these seeds are greatly shriveled, very light and incapable of germination when planted in soil. So what he did, he isolated the embryo from these hybrid seeds and then cultured them on a nutrient medium. By excising embryos from such seed and growing them in moist filter paper or cotton soaked in 15% glucose solution, he was able to raise the hybrid plant. There are two types of embryo culture exist. One is the mature embryo culture and another is the immature embryo culture. We will learn these two types of embryo cultures in next slides. Before that, why one should go for embryo culture? The need of embryo culture. It is mainly used in wide crosses, that is interspecific and intergeneric hybrids, in which the hybrids cannot develop due to pre and post fertilization barriers. That means whenever you cross two interspecific or intergeneric plant species, there are certain barriers in the crossing process. So due to these barriers, your hybrid plant cannot regenerate properly. The pre-fertilization barriers includes all factors which hinder the effective fertilization, such as differences in flowering time of two parents. Whenever you consider the two different plants for crossing, their flowering time could be different. That's why you cannot cross them properly, or you do the cross, but you will not obtain the fertile embryos. Then also the lack of stigma receptivity and pollen viability. As their reproductive plant parts are different, their flowers are different, they may not be compatible with one another. Their stigma could not be receptive to pollen grain of other plant, and also the pollen could not be viable. So these may be the problems for the fertilization to occur in such kinds of crosses. Then inability of pollen to germinate. Though the pollen is collected and it is deposited on the stigma of another flower, another species flower, but this pollen will not able to germinate as there is cross compatibility or the compatibility issues are there. Then failure of pollen tube to reach to the ovule due to slow growth. Also the pollen will germinate, but pollen tube cannot elongate and it cannot reach to the ovule, and thereby failing to fertilize the ovary, and the cross compatibility issues due to any other reasons. Because of all these reasons, your hybrid plant cannot develop a fertile seed. Usually the embryo aborts before reaching to its final stage, and thereby making the seeds sterile. That's why many hybrid seeds available in the market, they are sterile. So to avoid all these barriers, what we can do, we can remove the embryo from such seeds before the onset of abortion, and you can culture them on artificial nutrient medium. Now in the first mature embryo culture, what we do generally is it is the culture of mature embryos derived from ripe seeds, and it requires simple medium. This is done when embryos do not survive in vitro, become dormant for longer periods of time, and to eliminate the inhibition of seed germination. In few seeds, these are the problems. To avoid or to overcome these problems, we can collect their seeds and we can culture, we can remove the embryo and we can culture this embryo onto nutrient media. Some species produce sterile seeds which may be due to incomplete embryo development. Such embryos can be cultured and viable seedlings can be also produced. Such kinds of experiments were already carried in iris plant and orchid plants. Orchid embryos are, we cannot grow the orchid seeds in the soil. So usually the orchid plant propagation is carried through their embryos in a tissue culture manner. Then second type of culture is immature embryo culture, or it is also called as embryo rescue technique. As in this process, we remove the embryo before onset of its maturity, and we remove it from the unripe seeds and we place them onto in vitro nutrient medium, and we rescue it from the abortion event. So culture of immature embryos to rescue the embryos of wild crosses is used to avoid the embryo abortion, and we generally produce the viable plants from such embryos. So it requires complex media which includes special amino acids, hormones, endosperm extracts like coconut milk, as the embryos are at very nascent stage of their development, at very early stage of their development, and we remove these embryos from unripe seeds. That's why they require a specialized kind of nutrition in the media, and that's why we need to add these kinds of special amino acids, hormones, endosperm extracts like coconut milk in the medium in order to survive that embryo. Now, culturing of embryos, the most important aspects of embryo culture are excision of embryo from the seed and cultural requirements. This is the schematic diagram of immature embryo culture. Immature zygotic embryos are excised and cultured in vitro to obtain the viable seeds. Mainly, this is done in two major crops like potato and orchids. In potato, it is used in abortive interspecific crosses, and in orchids, it is used for embryos lacking the endosperm. In both of the plants, the embryo which is developing inside the ovary is then first plucked out of the ovary in the form of ovule, and it is cultured in vitro, and then the seed germination will occur. The first important step in the embryo culture is excision of embryo. So the material required is generally the artificial pollination of freshly opened flower is necessary when embryos are to be cultured at a specific stage of development. The mature embryos can be isolated by splitting open the seeds. The seeds with hard seed coats are dissected after soaking them in a water. To excise the immature embryos from single ovule, the ovule is split longitudinally to isolate the half containing the embryo. And for excising the older embryo, a small incision is made in the ovule, the side lacking the embryo, and then slight pressure is applied with a blunt needle to release the intact embryos. Usually, material, that means you need a seed. If the seed coat is very hard, you have to soak them in a water overnight or 2 days for softening of seed coat. After softening of seed coat, what you can do, you can just split open the cotyledons, and if it is a dicot, you will obtain the embryo between two cotyledons. If it is a monocot, then the obtaining the embryo from monocot plants or monocot seeds is slightly difficult, as you need a microscope for observing the embryo within the monocot seeds. Now in this diagram, the embryo culture of capsicum is being shown. So you have to slit open the fruit first. You have to take out the seed. Within the seed also, you have to remove the seed coat properly with the help of scalpel and forceps, and this kind of embryo is then cultured on a nutrient media, where it will further grow into a small plantlets which further can be hardened into the polyhouse and greenhouse condition. This is again the kind of immature embryo germination or immature embryo culture, where you first take the immature seeds or unripe seeds, which further were sterilized using several chemicals. These immature unripe seeds were then further taken into laminar airflow, where the seed coat is peeled off uh, from their surrounding, and then the embryo which is situated at the base is then excised from these seeds, and then they are cultured on a proper nutrient media, where they further grow into plantlets. So this is the procedure of immature embryo culture, where you start with the unripe seeds. Uh, where in mature embryo culture you start with the fully mature seeds. Now, where the applications of embryo culture are there in the tissue culture? So mainly we use the embryo culture for the production of rare hybrids, wild crosses from intergeneric or interspecific crosses. Like the hybrid embryos fail to develop due to poor or abnormal development of endosperm. So major barrier in the development of hybrid seeds in these kinds of crosses is abnormal endosperm. The endosperm is the tissue which provides the nutrition to your embryo. So this is embryo and this is the endosperm tissue. Endosperm provides nutrition, but whenever you perform these kinds of crosses, your endosperm, that means nutrition providing tissue, becomes faulty, or it will not form properly. That's why the nutrition from this tissue will not be provided to your embryo, and your embryo generally dies, or it will become infertile. So this is the main case happens in majority of crosses. So majorly in such kinds of crosses, in crops like cereals or legumes like Hordeum vulgare, Secale cereal, Triticum durum, Secale cereal, in such kinds of crossing experiments, we can go for culturing their embryos in vitro, so that to survive their hybrid plants. Also, it is used for overcoming the seed dormancy. In iris seeds, it may take several years to germinate. This dormancy can be eliminated by embryo culture techniques. That means in these kinds of plants, the seed remains dormant for almost 1 year, 2 years, or sometimes 5 years also, because of the seed coat conditions and the hard seed coat problem. So what you can do in such kind of plants, you can take out their seeds, mechanically break the seed coat, remove the embryo from the cotyledons and culture it in vitro, thereby overcoming the seed dormancy problem. Then also for shortening of breeding cycle, rose plants take normally 1 year to come to flowering, but embryo cultured plants come to flowering in 6 months. In rose plants, you can go for embryo culture so as to reduce their breeding cycle by almost 6 months. Then propagation of rare plants like banana and colocasia, such kinds of plants can be also propagated easily. Then propagation of orchid is mainly done by embryo culture. To prevent the embryo abortion, that means early ripening varieties of peach, cherry, apple and plum, embryo abortion is the main problem. So in these kinds of plants, you can rescue the embryo from abortion event, and you can place them on a nutrient media to obtain the hybrid plants. Clonal micropropagation can be also done using embryo culture, and rapid seed viability testing is also carried out using embryo culture. So all these are the applications of embryo culture. Uh, so this is the last slide of today's presentation. So we have learned the anther culture, pollen culture and embryo culture. So this is the end of your types of in vitro culture techniques topic. So mainly the questions on all these cultures will be asked in your examination, like who have invented a particular kind of culture, or what is needed for that particular kind of culture, which explant is used to initiate that particular kind of culture, what are the nutrient requirements, culture condition requirements for that particular culture, which enzymes, hormones are specifically required for that obtaining that particular kind of culture. So such kinds of one answer questions, fill in the blanks, or the MCQs can be asked in your examination. So prepare accordingly, and thank you very much.